Hi, everybody. My name is Kausar, and I am a first-year medical student here at the Kirk School of Medicine at UNLV. Today, we'll be presenting our research on the undergraduate college competitiveness and medical school benchmark performance. So a rite of passage for many teenagers, as we all know, involves a transition from high school to college. And this can be a very stressful time for students, as it could potentially determine their future academic success, as well as the eventual careers that they want to pursue. So most undergraduate college admissions committees actually use SAT or ACT scores to measure students' academic abilities and distinguish students from one another. This is actually a major deciding factor for students who will eventually attend college. Additionally, the costs vary greatly among these undergraduate institutions that they choose or they eventually get into. So for example, a single academic year at Stanford totals around $79,000 a year, while in-state tuition here at UNLV is around $9,000 a year. So it's quite a bit of difference in the price tag. So for all this extra money, we actually wondered if attending a more competitive college like Stanford or the Ivy Leagues played any role once students eventually get into medical school or postgraduate studies. So previous research has shown that students' undergraduate school selection can positively impact their MCAT scores, but there was limited data evaluating if those who attended a competitive college performed better on medical school examinations, such as Step 1 or Step 2 for USMLE, or Phase 1 and Phase 2 exams, which basically test medical students' performance on each body system and the diseases that go with those systems. So this is actually what we intended to measure in our study to see if there was a difference between whether you attended a competitive or non-competitive college and how you performed in medical school instead of just your MCAT. So we defined a competitive college in the United States as one in which 10% or more of their undergraduate student body achieved an SAT score of a 1400 on a scale of 1600. If this criteria was not met, those colleges would then be categorized as non-competitive. We then obtained data from the charter class here at the Kirk School of Medicine and the subsequent 3 following years to place each student into one of 2 groups, whether competitive or non-competitive, based on what undergraduate institution they attended. After doing this, each student score was then converted into a percentile and ranked from 0 to 100. Of these findings, only MCAT performance was found to be statistically significant between the 2 groups, but there was actually no statistically significant differences when it comes to medical school performance, both in Phase 1 and Phase 2 examinations, as well as Step 1 and Step 2 exam scores. This finding was actually pretty interesting to us because it highlights the fact that students attending less competitive colleges were just as capable as their counterparts who attended Ivy League institutions or more competitive institutions once they were accepted into medical school. So there was no difference between the 2. One limitation of our study, however, was that data was only collected from the 4 cohorts here at UNLV. So more data could actually be gathered to increase our sample size, as well as repeat the study to see if similar findings arise in different schools or with just a larger amount of students. From this, our conclusion is that since no significant differences were observed in medical school performance, students can actually benefit from attending a more affordable undergraduate institution. So staying in-state at UNLV, going to another non-competitive college that's a lot cheaper, rather than going to a competitive college or an Ivy League institution or a private university, because in doing so, they will eventually save financially in the end, and it will still allow them to become a successful medical student and eventual physician, just like if they went to a more expensive college. So they're going to be saving money in the end, and they're going to have the same end result because there was no statistical difference in medical school performance based on where they went. Medical school admissions committees can also use this data since we're basically erasing the aspect of institutional selectivity, since it has no profound effect on how they're going to perform as medical students and eventual physicians. It just tells you how they're going to do on the MCAT to get into medical school. So that's our research. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I thank you for this opportunity.